Imagine a world where you are in control thanks to decentralization. I'm Víctor Muñoz and I'm a developer advocate at Metis. I'm going to delve into a series of conversations with Rami Husami to talk about decentralization and layer 2 blockchain technology. Hello everyone, today I have a surprise. We are going to be starting a new podcast. I am Víctor Muñoz, a developer advocate at Metis, and we are starting a podcast to talk about all things blockchain, specifically layer 2s, and of course, we are going to be talking a lot about the sequencer, one of the key pieces in which we are working on. So today I have the pleasure to talk with Rami Husami, the developers relations lead at Metis. So how are you doing today, Rami?
Thank you, Victor. Thank you for the kind introduction, and thank you very much for hosting this podcast. Finally, we are doing this. I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited about the things that we are going to be talking about. I know that you have tons of experience, and I'm happy that you are open to share it with the world, you know?
You sure? I'm open to
So
that.
let's start. Let's start by, the basics. Tell me, how did you join Web3, and actually what drew you to specialize in blockchain development, considering all other alternatives?
Sure. So I started learning about Web3 and learning blockchain development back in the beginning of 2021. Uh, how I met the blockchain was I used to do CTF competitions. This is capture the flag competitions. It's sort of like a cybersecurity game where you would have like, for example, some challenges, some cryptography challenges where you need to like decipher some text, or you need to break some text that is like encoded in some cryptographic algorithm. You can have some challenges about web exploitation, where like you would be presented with a faulty website, and you will need to break this website and find the flag inside. Hence the name, capture the flag. So in these challenges, you would need to capture a flag in some vulnerable app, whether it be a cryptography or web or a binary executable. So in one of I was doing this for about a year, and in one of these CTFs, I stumbled upon a new category called Ethereum, and yeah, mostly I used to do web exploitation and crypto, and not crypto like the crypto that we know, like cryptography and binary exploitation. But then I stumbled upon this new category in this CTF, Ethereum, and there was smart contracts. This is something new to me, and there would be like a hex address, and I would look up this address on. It used to be RinkBuy back in the days, the Ethereum testnet, and like you will need to. So these challenges were basically easy, but I needed to learn how to read Solidity code for them to solve them. And like usually when you're doing CTFs, it's usually happening on a weekend, and like you have some time to learn things, and it was one of my favorite periods because I was learning so much. So I learned some Solidity. I learned how to write like some basic code in Solidity. Deployed my first smart contract back then. The challenges were just to find a flag in a smart contract. There was a challenge to find a flag in the private storage of a smart contract. A challenge was to a smart contract was not verified. You need to reverse engineer the smart contract, and yeah, challenges like this. But then it really intrigued me, and I started becoming more interested in learning Ethereum than continuing on with CTFs. And I started doing less and less CTFs, but more and more learning about Ethereum, reading some tutorials. I started doing crypto zombies, which is like a simulated tutorial. It was very cool. You would have a challenge. You would write a smart contract, and they had some auto checkers on the website that would check the validity of your smart contract, everything. And I also started my first task, like real paid task on Ethereum, was to create some front end for a smart contract. It was something very basic for an administrator of a smart contract. Found it on Gitcoin. Back when Gitcoin used to have like bounties and so much activity going on, and that's how I started. The same company that I did for them the first front end for a smart contract. They started hiring me for more and more, and till the end of around the end of 2021, when I was hired full time. But at the same time, I stumbled upon the Metis Developer Hackathon,
Oh,
which
interesting.
was at the inception of Metis Network. And for this hackathon, I was like, all right, I can do something. This was one of my first hackathons in Web3, and I saw that the network is quite new, and at that time there was no safe for multi-signature wallets, and they weren't mostly taking any new integrations. So I thought, okay, a new network, they will need a multi-sig. And so I forked the Gnosis Safe. I customized it a little bit to fit the Metis network, and then deployed it. Turns out they really needed it. They really wanted it. And I got the first place in Web3 integrations.
Wow.
And I stuck around since 2021, since 2 years ago. Stuck around with Metis Network. Would help them with development, with some other things, until I was hired, and like I was pursuing this actually about 6 months ago, and it's 8 months ago. Yeah, became the DevRel lead here.
Congratulations, man. I think it's pretty well deserved. You have more than enough of credentials, and it has become more than clear now that you have shared your personal journey. So thank you so much for sharing that. But I was wondering, maybe there is people in our audience listening today that are just starting their Web3 journey. So I was kind of wondering if you can explain to them uh, what what a blockchain really is and how does it actually work.
Sure. So, for those of you who don't know, a blockchain is, as the name already suggests, it's a chain of blocks. And you might also ask, what is a block? All right. So a block is usually a set of transactions or a transaction, and these blocks are usually produced by entities. These entities can be validators, can be verifiers. They're usually like called block producers or miners also, when back in the days of proof of work in Ethereum. So as I said, blocks contain transactions. Transactions are sort of like, we can think of them as like a message, a verifiable message from an address to another address. And your address is is a cryptographic string that identifies you, and you would have the key to this address. So what's cool about blockchain is that this address, you can write the key on a paper and you can burn down your computer, all right? But your money is still on this paper, basically. Like if you know the key to your address, you would be able to sign a transaction, digitally sign a transaction from your address to another address, and therefore you transfer your value, or you would transfer a message to this other address, and you would keep a hold of the address as long as you have a private key. And so, yeah, these blocks chained together, each block verifies the block previous to it. So if I'm a miner, and I'm producing a block, I would the block that I produce, it means that I'm saying that the block under this one is true.
Mhm.
And here's this one. I broadcast this block to the entire network. I forgot to mention that blockchains are usually a B2B network ruled by consensus. The consensus, it can be a proof of stake, proof of work, proof of authority. There are many consensus algorithms out there. So yeah, the block would be produced and broadcasted among the network, and the network would verify this block, see if it's valid. Different networks do it in different ways. For example, on Ethereum, it would producing the next block means that this block is valid. On our chain, it's the sequencer would produce, or the block producer would take a transaction from the user, add it to the list of transactions, broadcast it to the P2P network of verifiers currently, soon to be something else. We will talk about it.
Yeah.
So broadcast the block to the verifiers. Verifiers will check if everything is right. And this is on L2. This is all on L2. And then the sequencer would take this block and the blocks before it. It would take a batch of blocks together and post them, compress them, and post them on L1.
Okay, yeah, so that's the last part was the explanation of how Metis works. I think that we are going to dive super deep into that into the future, but right now I wanted to stay with the fundamentals and the essentials. And actually, since you now have explained what a blockchain actually is, I wanted to ask you like what aspect of the blockchain technology itself are the ones that excite you the most and why?
Yeah, so what excites me the most, first, like there are small things, there are big things, of course. What excites me the most about 2024 and the upcoming years is growth in the blockchain, growth in the market, growth in everything. I would love to see bigger companies or bigger protocols doing integrations with smaller chains or smaller protocols. This is what I'm excited about. I'm seeing this happening recently. I'm also excited about adoption, excited about scalability. Adoption comes after scalability, of course, and scalability is the most exciting thing right now. Everybody's trying to scale Ethereum, the mainnet. Everybody's trying to come up with ZK algorithms with all sorts of ways to scale Ethereum to take as most of transactions off of Ethereum and make them, but yeah, making them as secure as if you would post the transaction directly to Ethereum. So yeah, scalability, security, and everything. And after that comes the adoption, which is the most exciting goal, and which we all would love to be there. We all would love to have the stability of being adopted.
Absolutely.
As yeah, as like it would bring more freedom, more ways to send money, more ways to have. It's also not just about money. It's about internet. It's about the media. It's about everything. Would love to see, for example, our passports on the blockchain,
Yes,
our IDs on the blockchain. This is very exciting. This would be
yeah,
very great.
very exciting. Yeah, and the thing that you mentioned about freedom, I think it's something that when once you understand, you know, how to operate with the blockchain and wallets and everything, you can start feeling it. So, for instance, I traveled to Chile a couple of weeks ago, and I visited my family, and my family had no idea that I was working in crypto. So I showed them how a transaction works. I showed them how to send money on the blockchain using a MetaMask wallet and the Ethereum network and all that. And they were like, wow, this is really impressive because you don't need permission from anyone to do this, right? If you have access to internet, you can start your wallet, you can start playing around with this thing. And it's an amazing feeling, of course. But I wanted to conclude this first short episode of our podcast by asking a very important question that will define the future, which is the sequencer, right? So we are Metis are very excited about this technology. We have been working for a while on decentralizing the sequencer, and we think that it's going to play a key role in the future of decentralization. And so I wanted to ask you, what is the sequencer? And I think I explained a little bit why, but I would like to take your perspective on why does it matter.
So, of course, the sequencer. The sequencer I will talk about the sequencer in the optimistic rollup architecture. In the optimistic rollup, there is this entity called the sequencer and the entity called the block producer. So, and there's of course the user. Now, just a heads up, the sequencer is usually the same as the block producer in most networks. The same entity, the same private key and everything. The user would want to send money to somebody, right? So I want to send money to you, or I want to send you a message on the blockchain. What I would do is I would make the transaction, sign it by my digital signature with my private key and everything, and send it to the block producer, or we would send it to the RPC, and the RPC would handle all of this and send it to the block producer. Now, the block producer would create a new block. So if it sees that this transaction is valid, if it's not fraudulent, if it's really signed by me, if it can verify the signature and everything, it would create this new transaction. And like I said, it would broadcast it to the network of peers. And the sequencer would take every batch of transactions, compress them, and post them to Ethereum. And so the sequencer, what we understand from this is that the sequencer takes care of the data availability. It takes the transactions, puts them, makes their data available, or puts their data on on either Ethereum or some other data availability tool or a storage tool. The sequencer also handles the ordering of transactions. The sequencer can, like I said, it just posts the transactions to Ethereum. But what makes it so special, what makes it so important, and a critical component of the network is that it is, so the network scales Ethereum, right? The network runs on scaling Ethereum. If you're not scaling Ethereum, it means you're not running the network anymore. So if you're not posting these transactions to Ethereum, it means your network is down, right? And like we said, who posts these transactions to Ethereum? It's the sequencer. Now we have one sequencer and one block producer. Sequencers and block producers can go down. It's just some software, right? It's a computer. Computers can turn off, as we know. And when
it's a single point of failure, right?
It is a single point of failure. When a sequencer turns off or doesn't work or doesn't function well, of course you can still exit the network. You can still post your transactions to L1 directly, but this defeats the purpose of scaling Ethereum when you have to post your transactions to L1. And when the sequencer goes down, like it can be catastrophic. It can cause a mass exit event. It can be the reason for a mass exit event, and then nobody would be happy after that. And the sequencer can also censor people not taking their transactions, not posting their transactions, or like not producing their transactions. So there's a lot of critical things around it, and That's why you need to have a P2P network of sequencers. Because like currently our foundation is running the sequencer and the block producer. If we all and God forbid, if we all go on a vacation and then something bad happens, and nobody's running the sequencer anymore, who's running the sequencer? The sequencer can just very easily go down. So something bad can happen to us, and then there's no sequencer anymore, means there's no network anymore. Now we are in a period where we want to start to transfer the ownership of the network, to transfer the responsibility of the network to the users, to the community, so that the community would run this network. They would own the network.
Amazing.
And yeah,
I think that explains pretty much like everything in terms of why this fundamental component is so important and why people should be paying attention to this, because it's a single point of failure and it leads to centralization. We don't want that, right? We don't have this technology to promote centralization. We want owners to own this thing, right? And that is why it's so important. And I encourage anyone that is listening today to this conversation to reflect on this, because we want to build a technology that is robust, but at the same time is secure and decentralized. So, Rami, it has been a pleasure talking to you. We are complete on the time, but I'm going to give you the chance to say some final words to our audience in case you want to inspire them.
Yes, I want you to all believe in us, believe in what we're doing. It's been a long way. We recently celebrated our 2-year anniversary. It's been a long and a hard way, and there was a lot of obstacles on the way. There's a lot of things, but now we are trying to. We are not just trying, like we are going forward. We are scaling up to another level. We are taking L2 decentralization to another level. And very soon you will hear very, very good updates from us. So stay tuned.
Absolutely. Stay tuned. And I can say I'm new to the team, and I can notice already, like the first few days, that the team is very mission driven. And I think that is a fundamental thing in general. And I think that is one of the main things on why I'm collaborating with Metis, and why I believe so much that we here are going to make a big difference in the near future. So for all the people who are listening today, thank you so much. We had Rami today, and we will be having more and more episodes on this amazing podcast, in which we will be talking about layer 2s and, of course, the sequencer. So stay tuned to that. Thank you so much, Rami, for joining us today.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Bye.
Bye-bye.